Salutations, respected viewers. I'm George from Ireland. So this video is going to be a debate about blood donation. As is always the case, I shall kick off by being the proposition first of all. I know in some countries they call that the affirmative side. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the House, this House believes that all healthy adults should be legally required to donate blood. So let me set out our case. Why do we want to do this? Well, obviously, it's our life's blood. Blood is life-saving. People are brought to hospital in emergency situations, exsanguinating and on the point of death, and their lives are only saved because of blood donations. That could be the case with many of you here listening. Even in routine operations, people will sometimes need blood donations. So blood saves lives. And we owe it to our fellow citizens to donate our blood. Some people do that so voluntarily, which is fantastic, but it's just insufficient. We must have an ample supply. And remember, because there are various blood groups in the rhesus factor, sometimes there isn't the blood that's needed of a particular shortage group. There might be a severe paucity of an unusual type of blood. So the state has the right to oblige its citizens to do things occasionally when it's called for, such as paying tax, such as doing military service, certainly in extremist, all right? And so this is an occasion when it's absolutely meet that the state should compel people to give something. Notice it's only for adults, and it's only if they're mentally and physically fit to do this, okay? People who are subnormal, whatever, vulnerable adults not required to, hemophiliacs and so on, those with blood-borne diseases would not be required to do so. Very elderly people, we could argue about the age limit, won't have to do it. Anyway, so people will be called for their time, be arranged at their workplace to come and donate blood, and if they refuse to go, after a few warnings, they get a fine. If they refuse to pay that several times, eventually they have to spend a short spell in prison because the law must be upheld, and it's unfair on those who abided by the law and fulfilled their obligations to society. So people performing their civic duty by doing this, and we are obliged to care for each other. I am my brother's keeper. And whilst we're looking at that blood, we can screen for the diseases as well, with the patient's consent, and let them know. But sometimes if it's a communicable thing, we might say we're going to do it so anyway, because it's not just about you, it's a public health issue. You could be passing on whichever blood-borne illness to others without your knowledge, so we're going to have to inform you. And also brings people in for a checkup at the very least and say, oh, well, whilst I'm here, I'll go and see the GP, things like that. So it'd be fantastic for an individual's health as well as that of wider society. So I've explained why we're doing this and why it's morally and legally justified. The philosophical case, the practical case are unanswerable. And that is why I urge the House to support this very necessary and long overdue measure. I beg to propose. Right, so Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the House, we are opposed to this dreadful motion for the reasons that I shall lay out just now. Liberty. Liberty is worth more than life itself. That's why tens of millions of people have laid down their lives for freedom. And liberty begins at home, in the personal sphere. It's absolutely wrong that we should be led by the nose by the state and obliged to give our life's blood to a perfect stranger. If people wish to donate their blood, of course, that's commendable. But if you don't, that's up to you. It is your body. It is your choice. It is grossly unethical to donate your blood. Doctors and nurses will mostly refuse to do it. It violates the Hippocratic Oath. It goes against this core principle that patients should not have to do anything if they do not want to. An adult of sound mind, unless it's an emergency situation, will only have things done to him or her with that person's consent. And this is creeping totalitarianism. You see how they're trespassing on our personal choices. So by these insidious steps, they're leading up to a totalitarian state. You see, it's yet another usurpation of personal liberty and the state encroaching on what is your personal space. Nothing can be more personal than your blood, for goodness sake. The state has no business intruding into your body, sticking needles into you and things like that. Blood's never been demanded before. This is an absolute outrage. Taxation or indeed military service in time of war, those are different. Those are proven to be necessary, and very few people would argue about those, even though then people find these things onerous. So you can see how just by these little stages, it's creeping in. and it's absolutely unacceptable. So we must say no. We must say very firmly no. Draw the line before what are they going to demand next? Our organs or what? Our other body fluids? No. Absolutely back off. At some point, the state's got to get out of here. It's not the nanny state. This is the bully state. It's an outrage. Civil liberty. All right, we're just being used as a natural resource, exploited, literally exploited for others. So some people are selfish. You might say for not donating blood. Well, it's their right to be selfish. That's what freedom is, and that's what we support, and they don't. And there is no shortage of blood. This is an absolute fallacy that's put forward by the other side. I've seldom heard such hogwash. There's nothing in the media about it. Doctors and nurses I've spoken to have said nary a word about this, that we don't have a sufficiency of blood in our hospital blood banks. So I would like to scrutinise the paradigm they put forward. Right, we had their philosophical model, which of course is drivel, and the practical model. There were going to be fines. How much? We didn't hear. How many warnings do you get? What about the indigent? These people who can't pay fines. Mendicants, you're going to make them cough up as well. Undergraduates who don't have 2 pennies to rub together, you're going to make them pay. Jail, for how long? Are they going to be Category A? They're dangerous. Category C, then they get stabbed in jail and need more blood themselves. So the whole thing is nonsense. It's not been thought through. It's absolute drivel. This is sort of a back-of-the-envelope plan where they've hastily sketched out some harebrained scheme. So I've seldom heard something quite so outlandish in my whole life. And so what if 1,000 people refuse? What if 100,000 people refuse, or millions? Are we going to be jailing millions of people for simply asserting their human right to maintain their bodily autonomy and dignity? It's my body, stay out of it. This is grossly immoral and repugnant. And some people have got diseases which are undetected, which don't necessarily show up, all right? Even when they're selling an HIV test, say not detected. I won't say you don't have it, we can't be certain you don't have it, only say you don't have it. And then the blood was taken from them and it's given to whoever who then gets the disease. And they wouldn't have got it had it not been for the earlier person, the host, being compelled to give his or her blood to that other patient. You said that people who are infirm will be exempted from the scheme. How ill is ill enough? A cough, feeling a bit iffy, alcoholics, drug addicts, so they have to give as well. So we don't know how ill they have to be, and the age limit, they haven't even decided that. Make your mind up, think this through before you propose your model. I mean, it is completely mutton-headed. So you could exclude virtually everybody. When it's completely healthy, or if you exclude too few people, then, you know, we'll be killing people by stabbing needles in them who don't need to do this. And as I say, I suspect the whole thing would founder on the fact that doctors and nurses would go on strike. So it's completely unethical and take them away from their life-saving duties. And if people want checkups, yes, of course, that's praiseworthy. We'll have them come in for checkups, offer them free checkups, invite them in. We don't force people to do things, all right? Don't take away people's personal liberty. So for the reasons I have outlined, I believe this to be an absolutely unworkable, undesirable and catastrophic scheme. And that is why I beg to oppose.